Welcome back. All right, so we're going to talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets. In my continuing look at teams that missed the playoffs, Columbus was supposed to be better this season. Now, technically, they were. They finished the season with 66 points, which is 7 more than last year, but this was supposed to be a year they made a big jump. They finished 27, 43, and 12, and because of the fact this team has continued to be mediocre, Jarmo Kekalainen lost his job on February 15th. At this point, John Davidson's still the interim general manager. Pascal Vincent or Vincent, I've heard it pronounced both ways, but he's still the coach. Again, as I'm recording this, since David Quinn, I might be a little bit gun shy on that. But at this point, he's still the head coach, and I would think he gets a chance to stick around for next season. But it may very well depend on the general manager that's hired as the full-time replacement for Yarmo. Davidson's pretty comfortable running a team, though. I don't know how quickly we're going to see a new GM in place. I would think by the draft, but now that I've said it, now they'll have a new GM announced over the next 5 minutes before this goes live. But at any rate, the draft lottery is going to be interesting. They have a 9.5% chance of drafting first. They have a 9.5% chance of drafting second, a 0.3% chance of drafting third. And I was trying to do the math on this and going, how would they draft third? So 15.4% chance they draft fourth. There's a 44.6% chance they draft fifth, and a 20.8% chance they draft sixth. So in all likelihood, they're drafting fifth or sixth. When you look at the percentages, odds are Columbus is going to draft fifth or sixth. And that's probably not going to net a player who helps them right out of the gate next season. But this isn't a bad team. And offensively, I thought they were pretty good. Their goals for was 25th in the NHL. Their goals against 31st. The goaltending is something that is going to be watched in the offseason because there was a lot of talk about Elvis potentially being traded, but he didn't have the trade value during the regular season. So, yeah, we're going to see. Now, the playoff drought for Columbus has reached 4 years, and it might have been longer if not for 2020, where they won the qualifying round against Toronto. Otherwise, it might have been even longer. And again, because of those expanded playoffs, they would not have been in some sort of a tournament if not for the expanded playoffs. So we'd be talking about more than 4 seasons otherwise. But for Columbus, it's been a while. They did start the season 4-4-2. And then they went 0-7-2 in their next 9, which just sunk the rest of their season. There wasn't any way they were going to make the playoffs after that 0-7-2 run. And so this is a team that is going to be really interesting to watch in the offseason because there's still some good parts here. And when you look at their top scorers, Johnny Gaudreau, 81 games, 12 goals, 48 assists, 60 points. It has not worked in Columbus for Johnny Gaudreau. Johnny Gaudreau was around 100 points, in Calgary, and I think that if he'd stayed in Calgary, he at least would have stayed in the point per game range. But in Columbus, it just hasn't worked. Werenski, on the other hand, really, really strong finish to the season for Werenski. He ends up with 70 games, 11 goals, 46 assists, 57 points. And I think it was obvious, I'd say the last 6 weeks of the schedule, he was their best player. So Zach Werenski, really, really strong player that they can build the blue line around when he's healthy and all that. But the blue line was supposed to have been fixed in the offseason last summer, and it wasn't. Marchenko, 78 games, 23 goals, 19 assists, 42 points. I think Marchenko's capable of more than that, too. I think Marchenko can hit 30 goals, 60 points, that range. Voronkov had an interesting debut season, 75 games, 18 goals, 16 assists, 34 points. At times talked about as a potential Calder candidate. He may end up being one of the guys who ends up in the top 6 in voting. Unlikely, I would think that he ends up in the top 3, but we'll see. Cole Sillinger had kind of a bounce-back season. 77 games, 13 goals, 19 assists, 32 points. But there's still something with Sillinger's game that you're kind of left wanting for more. And so we'll see what happens in the offseason with so many good, young-ish players on this team, who's going to stick around and who's not. Chinakhov, 53 games, 16 goals, 13 assists, 29 points. When he plays, Chinakhov's very effective. Staying healthy has been an issue with him over the years, but we'll see. Adam Fantilli. So this is the guy that they're building around. 49 games, 12 goals, 15 assists, 27 points. Decent rookie season for Fantilli. Very few players come into the league as a teenager and just take over. Fantilli had a strong run. Kent Johnson did not. Kent Johnson, this is an interesting offseason for him. He's a restricted free agent. Played 42 games, 6 goals, 10 assists, 16 points. And definitely not the kind of season Johnson would have envisioned for himself before it started. Jiricek, 43 games, 1 goal, 9 assists, 10 points. I know fans are excited about him. I did see at times he would get sent down, and fans disagreed with him being sent down to the AHL. So, yeah, we'll see how things go for Jiricek this coming year. At the end of the season, Malatesta got a look with Columbus. Didn't look out of place. 11 games, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. And so I think there's room there for more production from him. We shall see. And then there's Patrik Laine. You cannot talk about Columbus in a video with an overview of this team's future and present and all that and not discuss Laine. 18 games, I should say, 6 goals, 3 assists, 9 points. For Laine, it's been tough to stay in the lineup. It's been tough to really hit his stride. Patrik Laine, if he was able to play a full 82-game schedule, if he is fully dialed in and he's playing at the top of his game, he can score 40 goals. I would say that at his best, he can score 50, but I would say even still, if he gets on a run, I would say a 40-goal scorer can be there. But he only played the 18 games. I don't know whether or not he stays in Columbus throughout his contract that he signed with them, but whatever they decide to do with Laine is going to be interesting. I think with that contract, you probably just hope he bounces back next year. Goaltending, Merzlikins, 13, 17, and 8 with an .897 save percentage. Not going to be easy to move him, but I think they want to move him because both Greaves and Tarasov look ready. Tarasov, 8, 11, and 3 with a .908 save percentage. Jet Greaves, 3 and 6, .908 save percentage for him as well. Both of those goaltenders looking ready to be regulars at the National Hockey League level. So this summer, I would expect them to move Elvis, probably bring in a veteran goaltender as well. But I don't know what the market's going to look like for Elvis either. Like, would Ottawa look at Elvis and say, hey, we could have Korpisalo and Merzlikins? Now, that may sound crazy, but hey, Ottawa's had some crazy ideas over the years. So, what's going to happen with Elvis? We'll see. Their UFA list is short, and this is a testament to some good general managing here that you don't have a lot of guys on expiring contracts that haven't already been moved. Meyer, Gauntz, and Zboril. Zboril, of course, the former first-round draft pick of the Boston Bruins. If you're like, I didn't know he belonged to Columbus, there may be some Columbus fans that are surprised as well. Brendan Gauntz has done a good job of carving out a niche for himself as a fill-in player, a fourth-line player here and there. I think he's done well. And Meyer, if he wants to stick around in Columbus, I think they make it work. RFAs, Marchenko, Sillinger, Chinikov, Nylander, who was fantastic initially in his run with Columbus, fell off a little bit offensively at the end there, but still, and a really, really strong run for Nylander. Jake Bean, restricted free agent as well. Johnson and Greaves, restricted free agents. So with Greaves, I think you probably want to sign him to a 2-year extension, guaranteed NHL money, probably around $1 million a year. Marchenko, Chinikov, those ones are going to be interesting. So Marchenko, a 23 goal scorer, is that $5 million a year for Marchenko? For Chinikov, 16 goals, but it was in only 53 games, so Chinikov maybe $2 million, that range, so something like that. It will be interesting to see what they do because Johnson, by all accounts, should be looking at a long-term extension. However, the season he just had would tell me it's more of a 1 or 2 year bridge deal, a show-me deal for him. But we'll see. There's some fascinating names here amongst those restricted free agents. Now, cap space, they have cap space. $23,475,000. So Columbus has cap space that whoever takes over as GM, or if John Davidson runs this team into the summer, you might see some money get moved around here and there and improvements being made to this roster. I don't think there's any desire to go into any kind of rebuild or anything for them. And then I wanted to talk about who's on the way for them. So you've got Denton Matejchuk, defenseman, considered to have really high top 4 potential in the NHL. Jordan Dumais, right winger. And center, Gavin Brindley, who did get into NHL action this year. Stanislav Svozil, fascinating defenseman. We'll see where he fits in, but there's a lot of prospects here in Columbus. And I know for Columbus fans, they might be like, hey, this is great, all these young guys, but when are we going to start winning some games? And that definitely is the right attitude to have, because Columbus has never really truly been a contender in their over 20 years in the NHL. When I look throughout their history, they've just never really been a true Stanley Cup contender. They've had a couple of really good years, but they've never had home ice in the first round. They've never really been viewed as a contender, and so yeah, that's a storyline that the new GM's going to have to try to change, which is easier said than done. Now, looking at a few of their contracts, Johnny Gaudreau's contract, $9.75 million until 2029. If Gaudreau was producing for Columbus the way he did in Calgary, that contract would look great, but he's not. So that contract doesn't look great. Severson, $6.25 million cap hit until 2031. So while Severson, I think, played well, that contract is still pricey. That is still pricey for Severson and what he brings. Remember when he signed that, Devils fans saying, wow, nope. And so far, that's been borne out. Goodbranson, the $4 million contract, his cap hit until 2026. I think Goodbranson played well for Columbus, but is it worth a $4 million cap hit? Could he get moved? I don't think so, but I wanted to point that out. And Elvis's contract. Yep, Merzlikins, $5.4 million cap hit until 2027. It is difficult to trade for a goaltender right now as it is. Very often teams will ask for a little bit more than what a team might be willing to provide. Plus, they're so wildly unpredictable. And so when you've got a goaltender in Elvis here who's had a down year and his cap hits over $5 million, it's a tough sell on another GM, I would think, unless they find a third party that'll launder the contract. For all of the complaining about who's cheating when it comes to salary cap, and it is that time of year when everybody complains about it, the reality is every team is cheating on some level, because those 3-team trades where you're basically laundering a contract so the cap hits lower, I don't see any difference. One thing with Columbus, they have not gone out and added a bunch of draft picks because they haven't been concerning themselves as a rebuilding team. Outside of drafting Johnson, Jiricek, and some of these players with high draft picks, really the vision has been to get Columbus back to at least contending for a wild card spot. And so far, that experiment has failed. So the next GM has to try to make that work. We shall see. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Will Columbus get better next year? How do they get better? Does Elvis get traded? Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.